It's the New OGs. The New OGs is a State Madison Entertainment production and is brought to you by Sun Life Solar. Sun Life is helping homeowners in Illinois take advantage of a program that lets them get solar power at no cost. That's right, no cost to you. If you're a single-family homeowner in the state of Illinois, you can lower your electric bill, raise the value of your home, and do something good for the environment without paying a single dollar out of your pocket to do so. In fact, Sun Life can only work with you if they can save you money. Sun Life is a SunPower dealer, an American panel maker with over 30 years of solar experience, and Sun Life even has a referral program that pays out as much as $500 per referral. So head over to www.illinoissolar.today and get in contact for a free consultation. Order a first when you know. We are also brought to you by People of Comedy. That is the network that we're on right now. That's James in the background. Get over to People of Comedy on Facebook. See all of the great shows offered there and check in daily as they have new, fresh podcasts you can watch and listen to wherever you listen to pods. They are the number one spot for recording podcasts in and around Chicago. Obviously available to record remotely and actually get your stuff out to all the major streams. They are in the midst of doing some major upgrades. Despite being the leader, they are still growing. They have an excellent opportunity right now where you can actually invest a little bit into People of Comedy and to making what we're doing here and what you see across all their other podcasts even better. So make sure you get there and check that out. And also Zanies.com, right? They're doing live shows again. Get over to Zanies.com. They've got live shows, safely, socially distanced, mask. You can actually order from your table from your phone, so you don't have to worry about anybody doing anything else and actually bringing you what you ordered and not bothering you the rest of the time. What a grand idea. That's one thing I'd like to see come out of quarantine. If we can do that thing where all you do is just bring me the item and then don't come back unless I hit something to ask you to return, that would be great. And I have nothing against, obviously I've worked in the service industry, but even as a server, I could just get a notification when you needed me so I wouldn't be stopping by some fucking actual servant child. That'd be great, so hopefully that makes it a little better for them.
Especially in comedy. Especially in comedy, you don't need somebody
oh my God.
fucking coming in the middle of the thing. Comedy Shrine in Aurora, Naperville has little green lights that light up.
Yes.
That's that is good because then the wait staff can just wait and see.
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay, are you ready? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want something like that to be the case. That's what I'm looking for.
Moving forward, I mean, in all real, I'm not trying to be in anybody else's pockets, but it's almost to the point where having some kind of small device at the table where they could place the full fucking order is in play.
That's what should be happening. I mean,
where you could put in, I want a martini like this with all the specifics, so nobody has to. And so, only thing you have to do is bring it,
right?
And there's less likely of messing up. You can have more people at the bar staff because you know exactly how much it. There's ways. I mean, we're at a place we could do that now. By the way, we could get your clean read, Bobby.
We could solve. Yeah, I know. Thank you. I appreciate that. I finally got the one.
That's in the business.
I appreciate that.
Everybody's people gonna be this is when
they'll jump over it for
Dylan,
sure.
When Dylan went electric, that was when Bobby had the clean read. That's what they're gonna call this.
What a jump in.
Another one. You never get another clean read.
Yeah, that'll be the last one. That's the last one I think I want. So I don't need any more clean reads, man. What's going on, XL? How you doing, baby?
What's groovy, man? I'm groovy, man. I'm at the fucking post office. You know what? I like the drag of having the post office joint going on behind me. But
yeah.
It's I'm dipping in and out like I'm an invisible man or some shit. So I'm gonna change this. But shout out to the USPS.
Yeah, the USPS loves shout outs.
That y'all shouldn't have to. It's dope.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that today. It is it's a weird thing. The head of the U.S. Post Office, the U.S. Postmaster General, he actually was in front of Congress today, lying through his teeth, which was interesting. We'll get into some of that shit. It's so wild, man. I don't understand it. They just straight up, because all the internal shit is yeah, that's not what the fuck's happening. And all the other shit is all the internal shit is they're slowing shit down. It's been a sharp decline. All his shit is no, everything's chill, man. We're all.
Yeah, somebody he literally said it was unintended consequences of his actions. And he's what kind of CEO tells people to start dismantling high-speed machines and doesn't expect working to slow down? He doesn't you can't process the shit as fast. It's obvious. How could that be an unintended consequence?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it. There's a lot of shit I don't get. I don't get electric razors that work in the shower either. So there's. I have one. You know what I mean? I have one, and I've used it in the shower, but I'm just waiting for the day. I'm just.
Bobby, they got dope ass speakers that work in your shower too. That wireless.
I don't trust none of them shits, man. I'm just waiting.
Man, I got all that shit, my dude. I got all that shit, nigga. Everything. I got enough electricity in my shower that if I die in my shower, there's got to be a mini investigation to see if something that I have in my shower that they said was okay wasn't okay.
Have you ever used an electric razor?
A toothbrush.
Are you an electric razor guy? Have you ever used one of those? I know you have hair now, but you've been.
I used to be. I don't shave as often.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to. For those of you who don't know, I'll post an old pic at some point. I don't think I gave Bobby one. He just did the shout out to the know the host clips. So
yeah. But, we got more of them coming. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna get people comedy out there. We're gonna get one out there. At
least one more coming.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is James getting one?
Yeah, we're gonna give everybody who's involved in this show. James has to get one. People of comedy has to get one. You gotta know the host, man. Everybody who pops in here, you gotta know who's there. We're gonna highlight all of our guests. We're gonna get them all.
We're gonna do the guests too.
Yeah, you should follow New OGs on Instagram if you're not doing so. And
shout out Rob Hines. We're gonna do yours. You know,
Rob Hines will absolutely show up on our Know Your Host and guests of the New OGs podcast 100%. There's no way you leave Rob Hines out of that. He's got to be there. Yeah, man. I don't trust electric razors. I mean, I have one. I've used it. I use it now more than I used to, but mostly because like I'll go for days without shaving. And then all of a sudden, because I'm home in the car, you know what I mean? Like I'm ready for war. And so, but every couple of days, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's time to fucking clean this up. It's usually like, 3:00 on the day of a podcast. And, but yeah, I don't know what's going on with electric razors, man. Someday I too will just be found in my bathtub. Not understand what's going on. Somebody who seemed like he did know what was going on this week for the first time in a while was Joe Biden. Joe Biden was alert yesterday. He was alive. The Democratic National Convention had their 48th quadrennial. Is that what they called it when they?
Yeah. Here's the deal. I am so glad that you led off with shitting on Joe Biden's ability to speak, and here's why I would like that you led off with it, because I've been wanting to say this to everybody for a long time. Here's a reason why I don't mind that Joe Biden fucks up when he says stuff. Because every single time Joe Biden fucks up when he says stuff, if you think about what he's saying and who he is, he's trying to say the right thing. He just fucks it up.
Right, yeah. He just has old man issues.
You know what he means, but he just says like that. What he uses the word the wrong way, or he tries to be a little hipper than he should for a 77-year-old white man, or he does. It's almost like dad joke mistakes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's where his trip up's at. It's as opposed to his opposition, Trump, who says fucked up shit. His advisors come back and like, no, the president didn't mean it like that. And then the reporters go, hey, they said you didn't mean it like that. And Trump's like, oh, no, that's exactly how I meant it. The most racist way? Yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
Trump went on some weird rant yesterday that went from like, let me see if I can pull this up to see what he said. Because yesterday he says, this is the quote, Syria, we took them all out other than we kept their oil. If that's okay with you, we kept the oil. We have some back, and keeping the oil, we should have kept the oil in Iraq. Remember, I used to say, keep the oil, don't go in. I'd say, don't go into Iraq. When I was a civilian, nobody cares like you. So nobody cares. I want to get that mosquito we don't like, they'll say. It's cruelty to animals. I don't know. So they have, I was saying the other night, the shark. They were saying, no sharks. We have to protect them. I say, wait a minute. Wait. They actually want to remove all the seals in order to save the sharks. They don't. You have it the other way around. It's true. I'm not a big fan of sharks either. That's a real quote from the president of the United States, who claims that Joe Biden is not capable of.
Holy, oh my God. You know
that's legit. I've got it on video. There's a real video for that.
That sounds like you ever do that thing where you do like the predictive text, just pick your word for you, and you just keep pressing the center thing, whatever it is, no matter what. That's what that sounds. That's what that looks like.
That's what that was. Like. Yeah. I'll post the video of the Trump shit. later on today. We'll have that up on
That's
the Twitter
bananas.
feed
Is
later
that
if
a
you follow Neo
recent
G's
thing or
pod.
that's
It
something
was
you
it
kept
was
following?
yesterday.
Come on. Wow.
Yesterday. That was his
And
speech
then
at
he's
in
coming back with
Pennsylvania.
like these
Yeah.
motherfuckers got the nerve to talk about teleprompter. Like, here's the crazy. We're gonna get into it, but here's the crazy thing. Next week is the GOP's convention.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
there's no way they can compete with what the fucking Democrats just did.
Have you seen the lineup that they've got?
Yeah, it's trash.
It's Scott.
It's fucking
Listen,
trash.
who are you trying to appeal to when you put up a TV personality that ain't nobody seen in 20 years? Why is Scott
A TV
Baio?
personality that ain't on TV.
Why is Scott Baio still talking to anybody? At least at least the DNC didn't trot out Alyssa Milano, right? Like, and I love Alyssa Milano, right? Like, I'm a big fan of hers personally. I know that like there's a lot of people that are like she's goofy because she's a very open celebrity who's very openly liberal or whatever. But also, like, I'm an old Who's the
The only
Boss
thing
fan.
I don't like about Alyssa Milano, I like her. She's a terrific actress. I used to like her shows and stuff. But her activism, like at the Brett Kavanaugh hearing, she was in the courtroom and she was straight up leaning into the camera, like,
it's a little heavy.
It's Alyssa Milano, motherfuckers. Like, she was like leaning into it, like, I know you were looking at your screen, like, is that Alyssa Milano? Bitch, yes, it's me. Like, she's like,
yeah. I'd like to remind her that
in there, do your connections, whatever. That's cool, but sit there and be a fucking citizen, man. Don't be styling like, how cold am I? I'm in this bitch.
Right.
Shout out.
She's a little heavy-handed with it, and that's why some people don't like her. But also, like, the DNC also didn't put her out in front of everybody. But the RNC is going to put out Scott Baio, who is kind of like a conservative version of her.
You know what? I'm gonna
is that a thing?
Apologize to Alyssa Milano for styling. You know why? You want to know why? I accidentally listened to an Ariana Grande song today.
Why'd you accidentally? You don't listen to her on purpose?
I just never had a reason to. She looks like a character at Disney.
There's a certain point where you feel bad about, like, you're like, I don't want to be interested in an artist who looks like they're like,
it's so poppy. Like, my thought of her is like young girls screaming at high school and shit. So I was like, that's not my thing. I'll let that go. Somehow it got put into a playlist that I had. She has a song called 7 Rings where she's going super, super baller. Like, she literally has a line where she goes, whoever said money can't solve problems clearly just didn't have enough money to solve them. When they say which one, I say I want all of them.
You listened to this a few times.
Yeah, I did, because the shit that
I accidentally listened to this Ariana Grande song 57 times this morning.
So here's why. So I was literally about to switch when it first came on. I looked, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was hitting the button, but the melody goes in the theme of my favorite things. A few of my favorite things, and I love that song. Right. So I was like, "Oh, is she doing a take on that?" So I wanted to hear that because I love that song. I was like, "Oh, I know she can sing.
Right.
I'll hear that." And it turns out it's like just this baller anthem about how rich.
Whatever excuses you need, brother.
Hey man, look, it's a great song. The shit smacks, okay?
I like Ariana Grande. I don't know why you gotta feel so ashamed about it.
I'm not ashamed about it. I was just saying the reason why, because I don't even know if the song's old. I didn't look it up. That song could have came out 10 years ago, and I could just be being real fucking.
You're worried about being creepy, is what you're saying.
No, I could just be being a real middle-aged 40-year-old motherfucker that's like, oh, this song is great. So that song came out in 2006. Like, I have no idea. I didn't look it up.
Right. You just digging it. You just dug this song.
And it shit smacked, and I was like, this is dope. She got mad swag on the song, man. Just it's 7 Rings. If you get a chance to check it out. All
right. Well, there's a promotion for Ariana Grande.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Ariana Grande. I apologize for stunting on you, girl. You got game.
You seem about as connected as the Democrats rolling out the Clintons to speak at the convention.
I don't know how that. I don't know, like.
Homie, what are they doing, dog? What's the game plan?
I
they had months to figure this out.
I don't want to steal Trevor Noah shit, so I'm trying to give him credit for it. He was like, he said something about shit Trump was doing in the Oval Office, and they were like, "Come on, man, you gonna tell somebody about what they do, what they can do in the Oval Office? You don't really get to make that call, buddy. That's like you was in there finger banging interns with cigars. Like, the fuck are you?"
I think it's just cigar banging. I don't know if there's any fingers even involved in that at that point. That's just cigar work at that point.
Okay.
Not to get technical, but people.
Is cigar banging.
People in particular communities don't like to be marginalized, and so I would hate to marginalize cigar bangers by reducing them to finger bangers.
Shout out to the cigar banging community.
Oh, we'll probably get a message or two after this one. This is why they're coming for you, James, because we talk about the Clintons on air like this. That's
hey, why is there a black helicopter above my house? There's a real loud knock at my door. I'll be right back. Hold on.
I will say this about the Clintons being there, though, is that she did just run for president like the last time, so it's not like they're that far removed from the deal. You know what I mean?
I don't mind her being there. She her making that line, like she had a home run line of part of the DNC where she was like, they could win by 3 million and still lose. Trust me, I know.
That same lady, the same person who writes her tweets wrote that shit.
Yeah. But I mean, she delivered it. She delivered it for a change.
Yeah, she had it.
No, usually her deliveries are usually so robotic and
I
am not a human talking to you like this.
Or they're not to the states that she needs to deliver them to.
So
those are usually the hangups.
How much did the DNC get the point? They tried to have this motherfucker in Milwaukee, and they were trying to make the point. Like, we get you, Wisconsin. We sorry.
How do you feel about the remote convention? Like, how do you feel they did? Like, overall, I mean, obviously, let's preface this for all the people that may be watching this who are. It's interesting because like a lot of our friends are ultra progressive, but I think a lot of people who might watch the show may fall further towards the center. But like, I would preface this by saying, yes, we know this is like the DNC prom, right? Like where it's like, like this is the they're gonna make it as pretty as possible. But like, how do you feel about like the remote thing and all that?
That's the point. That's the point of. I mean, anybody who has that critique on it, I'm like, well, just stay out of the show because, like, that's the whole point of it is to do the prom. Like, it's like it's the car show. Like, you don't show what's fucked up with your car at the car show. You show the pretty shit.
Yeah, I mean,
but
go ahead.
The thing to answer your initial question, the roll call should never ever go back to being an in the room roll call. It should always be videotaped for two reasons. If you've ever watched convention footage in the past, the roll call takes forever because those fucking speeches about each state, it's live camera, and technically parliamentary procedure, I don't think they can stop them until they say the words, these delegates go to such and such. They have to actually say the delegate. That's why it's the last thing they say.
Right.
And so if I'm going on and on like I am right now, if I'm going on and on, they can't stop me. But with these video things, you got 30 seconds, motherfucker. Say whatever you want to, but you got 30 seconds, go. And they can cut them off and come back to them, or whatever. Or just they tell them you got 30 seconds, that's all you got to do. And make them record them in advance. That was a huge improvement because one of the best moments of that is I discovered that I believe calamari comes from Rhode Island. I did not know that. And not only did it come from calamari was in danger, and Rhode Island saved calamari, the calamari comeback state, motherfucker. What? He said that with so much gangster, my dude.
He said it like
started with that calamari, like, yeah. Hey, nigga, he had a motherfucker with a full plate of calamari fried too, which didn't make sense.
Do you know how thuggish Rhode Island is? Do you have any idea? Well, like, so the thing is, I forget why so many people are out of Rhode Island, but
I think they have very, very loose laws because they are one of those states that people incorporate in a lot.
So the other thing is, like, a lot of mob shit is out of there. Like, a lot of mobsters retreat, like, that's where their actual spot is in Rhode Island. And then they come and they operate like, and also like, if you're not familiar with the East Coast, if you've ever traveled between like the between like Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, and Rhode Island. It's not that far. It's not hard to get from like, Pennsylvania to the literal like Hudson, like to New York City in a day. Like that's a day.
People take the train from Philly to New York.
Joe Biden used to go from Connecticut or from Delaware to New York or to Washington all the time, like 4-hour train ride. So that's not an unfamiliar thing. I thought Obama's speech was pretty incredible. I thought it was an opportunity to kind of remind people of, it's you just can't be the person in charge and do all the shit that everybody wants you to do. But I think he did a solid job of reminding people that he really was a pretty leftward, even though in the end he ended up being quite centrist. The election of him was a pretty leftward movement. Even whether he fulfilled the promise of what everybody wanted from him or not, he also like the reason why Bernie gained favor and the left has even grown even more is partially because of him being there. That movement could have been shut down quite a bit had he not gotten elected when he did, and or it could have grown to a shittier place quicker. And I think he did create some hope, and I think he spoke back to that again. And I think Michelle, put him in a spot where he had to probably rewrite some parts of his speech.
That's something that people bring up a lot, and
What's that?
I don't know if their dudes are being loyal or what, but every one of Obama's speechwriters say the same thing. We don't write Obama's speeches. He writes his speeches. We're in the room like proofreading and like touching up, but he does all the writing. And there's a big thing where people keep always kind of do this thing where he doesn't write his speeches or whatever. And apparently, I don't know what it is. I don't know where that rumor, I feel like that's a Republican talking point that carried over. Because I always, like his speechwriters have a podcast and they constantly say he writes all of his speeches.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why I went off on that. I just somebody else said something about that on Twitter or something earlier, and I think I had that in my pocket.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably a mixture of some of those things. I would be, it's kind of like that idea of like they used to claim, the old claim used to be that Jay-Z just kind of they used to say Jay-Z just freestyled all his raps, and that's not actually accurate, right? Like Jay-Z could afford the studio time to be in the studio and have the beat play and literally just like rap, like freestyle as much as he could, and then be like, all right, right back to this part, and then he would just go back and do parts again, and then he'd have like that. It's a little different than I just got on the mic and just spit 16 bars cold. Like sometimes somebody spits sometimes the whole idea of
we had to do an investigation of that because Jay-Z on his record says he does shit in one take.
So like as I was addressing, like the fact that he may occasionally get a verse in one take is sure. But like the idea that man spit a whole album in a take is insanity. Like, come on, dog. I mean, he didn't spit tens. Well, if he does a verse in like, yes, he can do maybe he does a verse now and again in one take.
Hey, man,
and that's great.
This is not me holding Jay-Z water. This is what I'm saying.
You're missing my point.
And this is what I'm saying. Okay, I'm saying you're putting bad information out, man. They say he do his whole shit off the top of his dome, man. That's how they.
You're missing. That's not. I didn't say he didn't. What I said is that he's spitting off the top of his dome. But when you can pay for 12 hours of studio time, you can play You can play your beat for your song over and over again. You may spit the whole thing off your dome, but it may take 10 hours to write the song, writing it off your dome. Now,
go ahead. Let's go.
Now, occasionally he may sit there and come in and drop 16 and go, "That's the verse right there." But it is insanity to think that man comes in and does 3 verses per song for 10 songs for an album, does them all in one take and walks out the studio. That is not reality.
Okay, but what could be reality is that he could do one song a day. And do it in one take.
You're still telling me that man doesn't have any edits in
That's what they say, man. I'm not saying it. That's what they say.
He also said he had a fucking $1 billion before he did. Like, come on, G.
He has $1 billion.
Have you never sat in a studio?
I mean, okay, if he has,
if you never sat in a studio, you know that's not how it works.
$820,000, $820
We're
million.
arguing a different point.
He's going to get the $1 billion.
I threw an analogy out of the air, and you want to argue the analogy instead of arguing the real point, which is nobody is going in a studio and recording an entire album in a single take. It's not happening. Jay-Z is not doing it either.
We got a lot of viewers on this show.
Stop it.
Stop it.
That's silly.
Do the Googles.
You're talking silly.
This is not me saying it. Like literally, he's on the Black album.
He says it in a verse. Wow, a guy boasted in a verse about something he may or may not do. Come on,
on his last song, on what was supposed to be his
on a song, right?
He's not rapping. It's like they kept the recording going, and he's talking to the sound engineer, and he goes something like, "What are you gonna do without me? I'm retiring. I do these whole motherfuckers in one take." And they're like, you're gonna have to take mad takes with all these other cats. I do this shit in one take. He's like talking to the dude. That's not a verse. He's not rapping. He's like literally like having a conversation.
Great. None of that. Oh my God, dude.
Okay, it could be fake, man, but that's a weird thing to mythologize. That's a weird thing to mythologize. Do you believe
that Spider-Man is real too? It's a great mythology. That's a perfect mythology.
And what
a great story to have out there.
Would call him out on that? You don't think other rappers would call him out on as many beefs as he's had?
No, I don't.
Oh, wow, okay.
There's a lot of guys that say they do shit in one take. That's all. It's like yes, sometimes you do, but it is. Come on, G. That's a naive thought to believe that anybody is going in and off the top of their dome with no previous work is going in. You're going to tell me you spit the entire Black Album. If that's the case, that is the greatest rapper that's the greatest man to ever rhyme words that has ever walked on the face of the planet.
There are two rappers that they claim. There's two rappers that they claim.
There's nobody.
Him and Biggie. They said Biggie, dude. There's a story where Nas. Dude, there's a story where Nas is talking about he did a song. He was supposed to do a song with Biggie, and he never did the song. And the reason why he didn't do the song was because he was worried about going with Biggie, and he wrote this verse. He thought he wrote this sick ass verse, and Biggie had fucking forgot about it. And when they came to the studio, he was like, he's gonna let him go. Biggie's like, nah, go. And Biggie spit off the top of his head, and the verse was better than what Nas had wrote. And he said, fuck this song, and didn't want to be on it. Because he was mad that Biggie came off the top of his head.
Yes,
and I'm saying that's
great. What you're saying is you're taking what somebody can do occasionally, and you're telling me that they do that every single time they record a song for an album, and that's just not how recording an album works, man. I'm sorry. It's dreamland shit. Like the idea that Jay-Z recorded every single album he did in single takes is just not reality.
Okay.
I mean, you can talk to any music engineer, and they will tell you that is total bullshit.
So it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to mythologize because, like I said, it's
an
easily checkable thing. Like all his sound engineers scored the silence.
Engineer.
Nobody's calling him out on it. No, not one rapper.
It's a hip hop boast, dude. Everybody makes boasts in hip hop. How is that the one story in all of hip hop you believe to be true?
We're spending way too much time on the Jay-Z shit, man. Let's move on to the next thing.
Oh shit, man. You gotta learn how that works, man. That is not how works.
I disagree. I think that's a weird thing because that's a very easy thing to check. It's a very easy thing to get.
You act like it's like there's a lot of people that boast in hip hop, though. That's not. It's the boast like any other boast in hip hop.
When shit's fake, especially when they have a beef.
Not really. Sometimes, but not all of it.
All these other rappers, all these other motherfuckers say the same thing. I was in the studio with Jay. He did all the shit off the top of his head. All of them. They all say the same shit.
You're missing what I'm telling you.
Nobody's like that nigga's lying. He don't do that.
You're missing what I'm telling. Doing something off the top of your head and doing it all in one take are also different things. Doing it off the top of your head and doing it in one take.
And they're saying he's doing both, is my point.
Yeah, he does it off the top of his head, and sometimes, occasionally, he does it in one take. That's great.
I don't care. Move on to the next topic. We're wasting time.
All right. Speaking of one take, how about Kamala?
She was dope.
I heard she also only speaks off the top of the dome and has never, ever made a mistake in any lyric ever. That she's recorded for an album. She just never has a verbal slip up, only perfect. She's also without fault. What you're suggesting is insanity, man. I'm trying to pull it together, but you just got to talk to just one sound engineer, brother. You just got just one of them. Just talk to one. So let me pull it back on track. The convention was a success, yes?
I thought it was great. I thought they should like never do a traditional, like I was listening to some shows this morning with people who have been delegates and things like that in the past.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how there aren't like deals and connections and people knowing like who the up and comers are and how they get, how the up and comers like people like AOC, how she becomes AOC is like people see, oh, she's a fucking star. Let's get her over here. These guys can help her get funding. These guys can help her get into this. Yeah. Oh, she likes this initiative. Get her to the green people and stuff like that. And you can't do that without that in person. And quite frankly, I kind of don't give a fuck about that part of it because that part of it is also where all the lobbyists and shit like that and the greasy motherfuckers are at too. I like this. I like the roll call was amazing. The speeches were amazing. They had to be kept within a certain pocket because of the way it was set up and done.
Yep.
Obviously, having crowds for some of the things, some of the speeches would have been cool, but I'm glad. I think the thing that made it work so well was that there weren't fucking crowds cheering incessantly at every little fucking line, every little thing where it's just like, oh, he said potato, I'm from Idaho. I hate that shit. It's unnecessary and it takes away because people just want to have a bunch of applause points. This, you got to actually hear them speak.
Yeah, I think that a 25-minute speech becomes a 40-minute speech when you have to like give those, like you said, those call outs to every dignitary, and you got to get that. You got to wait for the applause. We didn't have to wait for any applause to die down. None of that had to happen. It was great.
There's a great story about Bill Clinton in '88. Just wouldn't shut the fuck up. He was supposed to do like I can't remember how long he was supposed to do, but he did like 25. Like he ran the light like crazy. But there's, like I said, when it's live like that, there's almost no way to stop that person. Like you can't come, it's fucking convention. You can't have guards come snatch him off a live camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's like no way. So this dude, he just kept going. He ran the light by like 10 or 15 minutes, man. It's insane.
And he still became president later.
Like he ran the light so bad that they had the footage on TV. The people covering it on TV were like, they are trying their darndest to get him to stop talking, and he just will not. It's fucking hilarious. Like shit like that happens.
I've done that once or twice.
Something like that happens like that every year. Like, you know how long we would have had to listen to boring ass Cory Booker?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm so glad that was quick.
Yes.
On the I thought it was great.
Did you also notice that he found a reason to drop his girlfriend into a conversation? Like he always finds a reason. I would find a reason to drop her in there too. Which, by the way, shout out Rosario Dawson for not dumping that nigga when he got eliminated.
Yeah, Rosario loves shout outs. She's probably grateful for that. She's probably like, listen, the pressure of having to be the first lady is also some shit that some people don't want to have to deal with. You know what I mean? So like, got to avoid that.
Rosario Dawson would be a fucking amazing first lady.
Yeah, well, for us.
Oh my God, yeah.
for us, not for everybody, but for us, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd be all for that. One of the things with it, I thought was great. Like without having the crowds there, it was just like it was kind of like Hannibal Buress's special, Havana Nights, where there's no crowd there, where you're not lulled into believing that someone's giving a good speech just because you're hearing an audience reaction. You actually are like, the speech has got to be a good fucking speech now, right? Like you just got to give me a good speech now, because that's the only way that we're going to know whether you're full of shit or not, as the words actually come out of your mouth. And I think Biden delivered on that part. I mean, the speech he gave, especially closing largely in a framework that was honed around Black Lives Matter, I thought was pretty incredible. He didn't directly just say Black Lives Matter in that way, but pointing out those things and that this was an inflection point for change, I thought was pretty big.
All right. So I do think that I wanted more policy shit, but I fully 100% understand why there wasn't more policy shit. Because two reasons. One, they just want to do shit to piss off Trump, so he just keeps fumbling and doing his irrational tweeting and just looking like the monster that they want him to look like. And two, anything, because of how Trump works, anything that they say that they're going to do, he's either going to co-opt it or he's going to just start shitting on it and make everybody hate it before they have a chance to roll it out completely and like actually bring to the people what it is. So let him not have, he has nothing to really punch at. He's going to punch at the nice old guy that stutters that everybody loves. Right. That's who he's going to punch at next week.
Which I thought that was a cold move to bring out that kid who.
That was amazing.
And it's, everybody was like, wow, what this kid said was so fly. But what like everybody kind of missed out on was the fact of like why it happened in the first place. And the reason why it happened is because the president has been claiming this guy is got dementia and is senile and can't get it going because of some verbal gaffes. And what putting this kid out there did without even saying so is you're saying my man has got like deteriorating capabilities, and the reality is homeboy stutters every once in a while, and that's caused him to say some shit that like sounds weird, but it's not what he means, right? Yeah. And I thought by just putting this kid out there, and I think just putting this kid out there and letting him speak gave the point way more than anything the kid said. It was just a baller move to be like, look, y'all are claiming this shit, but this is the actual reason why it's going down in the first place, which I thought was wild.
But you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? And I hate pulling the curtain behind shit. They started about 6-7 weeks ago. A friend of mine dropped this for me twistingly. About 6-7 weeks ago is when they started talking about his stutter pretty heavily. They started bringing it up in their thing and stuff. And the kid kind of like let the goat out the gate when the first like, I met Joe 2 months ago. And I was like, okay. I was planning this shit.
Well,
kid with a stutter, and y'all was like, hey, Joe, go hang out with this kid for a bit.
Pulling that shit out.
It wasn't a real shit, because Joe Biden is the type of guy that would be some real shit. But somewhere there's a staffer or somebody on this thing that's like, hey, I got an idea.
Well, it's got to work that way, right? Like if you can either do one of two things. You can either come out and try and like, so he comes out originally when they call that shit out, when they start saying all that shit about him, and he goes, look, I got a stuttering problem. That's the shit that happens. Then they start trying to claim he's weak because he's got a stuttering problem. Or you can just set this up where this kid can come out and give this speech. Then you don't have to even address it directly. You can have it. And Joe doesn't come up and say shit about a stutter. He comes up and just gives his address, right? But they lead into it, this kid being like, hey, by the way, homeboy gonna stutter sometimes and say some weird shit, but it's only because of the stutter, okay? I stuttered too. He made friends with me. He's all right, y'all. And that's like...
it's shit like the whole... Dude. And I'm about to say something that's going to sound like I'm heartless, and I hope no one takes this that way.
Just say the shit.
I thought the Beau Biden shit was too much.
I'll be honest. I skipped massive parts of the whole thing because I didn't even need to see that part. I was more concerned about Joe's speech.
You should hear this. They did like an extended music video length, like a 2020 background on who Beau Biden was, and it's like this buildup of how great he was and all that stuff. And the problem with that is, I understand that he was a great guy. I've heard stuff prior to, when he actually passed and before he passed about him, that he was this amazing dude with this amazing character. And rest in peace. I don't mean any harm by this, but that has nothing to do with this fucking election or why I should vote for Joe Biden. And
I think the point is
pulling on the heartstrings shit. Now, if they were tying it to his passion to fight for cancer, like why? Because they also talked about his moonshot initiative of wanting to find a cure for cancer.
No, I think he made it really clear. He made it really clear in his speech why Beau is a major part of this. And the fact is that like there's a bunch of fucking people who lost people this year. Almost 200,000 people are dead in this country.
I understand.
I mean, listen, man. Hold on. Guess what? The guy in the office right now is doing no bits on nothing related to death. He's ignoring it completely. Which guy would you want? There's a lot of people at home right now.
I'm not shitting on it, Bobby. I just thought I understand.
That's the reason.
If you saw it, I feel like if you saw it,
sure.
it was
maybe
it was. I felt like it was overdone in a way that I felt like they were exploiting his own son's death. It felt exploitive. It felt like they were like, my son died, you should like me, which I feel like is I understand the theatrics of it, but it felt cheap and it felt like I could never imagine using
you
my
have a
son
heart, and so for you it seems like a false or maybe an over attempt at empathy, but there's a lot of people out here who are kind of dismissing the 170,000 people who are dead and trying to find a leader who can actually understand that and trying to maybe show how deep that interaction might be and why this person may actually be a better person to deal with the loss that's happening right now. May have been worth it to them to try and do that. I get what you're saying. I haven't seen the video, so I probably have to see it. But
it's like 3 minutes of how great of a guy he was and all this great stuff he did, and then like the last minute and a half, 2 minutes is that he died of cancer and like that it was tough and stuff. But it was like this. It was like this. He's American hero thing that I was like, what? This kind of doesn't fit here. Like like I said, tying it to his like why he's gonna the moonshot thing is real and he's gonna really try to fucking push it. I'm okay with that. If that was their motivation, I'll take it. But vote for it as far as like a reason to vote for Joe. His son passing away doesn't do it for me.
Got it.
That's the thing.
On the other side of things, while they were having this great convention, while all that was going on, a GOP-led Senate came out with their final report on Trump and Russia collusion. This is, I think, the end of all the reports that have been going on. I want to be clear at the top. This is a Senate that is controlled by Republicans. These are people who could have easily made this
controlled by Republicans.
It could have all these could have all been this could all be stuff that could say something completely different, right? Like this could have been completely different shit. And what they came out and said is that the Trump campaign got data to WikiLeaks that went over to Russia. Manafort gave polling data that was important to Russia. The Trump campaign knew that. The only person not directly implicated as like having any actual direct conversations is Donald himself. But Donald Jr., everybody else that has been alleged to be involved, from Roger Stone and those connections to WikiLeaks, the hack of Hillary's emails, that has all been connected to the Trump administration now. And the GOP-led Senate, all those Republicans, all them guys that you see come out there and talk all that bullshit that carried water for Trump, all let this report come out and say, this is what happened. This is, 9 months after impeachment. This is, long after the president and the attorney general have said this was a hoax and not real.
I believe this was your retweet that I retweeted because I saw you tweet it. But somebody said, isn't it amazing that these senators are releasing this information? They also didn't want to talk to any witnesses during Trump's impeachment. Like, you knew that all this shit was going on, and we have an impeachment going on saying he's doing this exact same shit, and you didn't want to talk to anybody?
Right. Yeah. They were in the midst of working on this report even back then.
Yeah.
And they knew they had access to all this information, and they openly defied that. And so, I mean, my only hope from this is because obviously, the election is going to happen in November. And unless someone really cracks open something that shows very vividly a Trump involvement in a scheme that is worth getting him out any sooner, there's going to be an election that happens. My only hope is that all the other Republicans that are a part of that process also go away. And that means Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham.
What do you think? Politics, nothing happens without a reason, okay? Mm-hmm. And if they had some kind of timetable or something that they had to release this on, this is usually like a Friday night dump thing if you're trying not to make it seem. This gets released during the week
This was early in the week. Yeah.
During the week of the DNC, the Republicans let this get released. So this almost feels like a little, I don't know, mutiny is the right word, but it's just strategically, I don't understand this getting released this week. Of all the time to get released, it gets released now, and then it follows up that Barack Obama does something that it traditionally isn't done. He pulled out a shotgun and pointed it at the current president and his character and blew it the fuck away. And the next morning, before Trump could even have a rebuttal to what Obama said last night, his former campaign manager is getting put in handcuffs.
Yeah, Steve Bannon got arrested also. Top CJ Sullivan lookalike Steve Bannon.
CJ Sullivan, get a TV show out of this shit. Start wearing double collars, my dude.
Yeah, CJ Sullivan has to play Steve Bannon in the Steve Bannon life story when they do that part of the biography.
A little bit of a wig action so you can do the comb over thing on the top. And double
necessary.
collars, CJ. Make that shit happen.
So Steve Bannon, who used to be involved in the Trump campaign, he got arrested for trying to defraud donors on an attempt to build its own wall on the U.S.-Mexico border, which already sounds goofy as hell.
Hey,
first of all, this is a grown man who claims he's trying to raise money to build wall for a border, or get money to build a border wall, and idiots send him money, which is partially their fault, right? Like partially, it's like, hooray, I'm glad, I'm all for defrauding idiots. No, I'm actually not.
He pretty openly put it out on the table today where he was like, they're trying to silence people who support Trump on the wall. I support Trump on the wall. Basically like, hey, pardon me, my dude. I need that pardon action. Drop it on me.
Well,
I'm a snitch.
There's been so many people. There's been so many people arrested off of the Trump administration that like they're all going to make a plea for a pardon at first and see if they can get one. But this is also a guy who has said some, after he left the Trump campaign, didn't speak too favorably about it either. And Trump, they had a minute where there was a little bit of heat going on. So I don't know. It depends on how heavy they're gonna try and go after him with this fraud charge. I thought the craziest thing was who arrested him.
Oh yeah. The United States Post Office. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Where they arrested him on a $35 million yacht
owned by
hit it
Chinese investors.
Chinese investors, yeah. But here's the thing that's crazy about that. They really want your ass. They came out on the water to get you.
Dude,
the post office,
movie
I didn't even know the post office had boats, nigga.
Of course. How they think they get that shit across the water? They just fly everything. Some of that shit's got to get not all of it. Not all of it. Some of that shit gets floated across there. Some of the shit has to get floated. Yeah, it's pretty wild. That's some movie type shit where like you're out on some billionaire Chinese investors' boats partying, and the fucking postal service shows up on a boat to take you away. That's not what you want.
I wonder if that motherfucker was on that boat because he was trying to hide out, thinking that he was getting away with some shit. Like because I don't know his lifestyle. This motherfucker's very rich.
Right.
It's August, man. It might be hang out on a boat time for rich motherfuckers like him.
Yeah. Well, even to add further insult to injury for Trump, he's been fighting this giving up his taxes shit for a while. And a federal judge again said that he's got to cough up the taxes. So I think he's got one
back-to-back days.
Yeah, the same guy. Yeah, same judge has said twice now that he's got to give him up. I think he's got one more shot with the Supreme Court, and that's it.
Yeah, and the thing that he's asking for he has no case. He's just literally trying to stall out to pass November. Like that's all he's really trying to do. It's stall out to pass November because once it gets past November, it doesn't mean anything as far as the election goes. Because if he loses, he's going to jail either way, and if he wins, well, we're dead. We're
how long? If he loses and shit starts to start rolling out, how long do you think he stays in the country?
That is a very interesting question because Secret Service, as long as he is actually the president,
right,
it is their job to protect him.
Sure.
And so until January 20th, he's the president.
Right.
What's to keep him from taking Air Force One? Because if he says, fly me Oh shit. Fly me to Moscow. Yeah, something just fucking snapped in my slides, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" It's a table I moved earlier. I adjusted it wrong.
You and Joe both losing your faculties live on air.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on? No.
If he wants the Secret Service to take him, okay, yeah.
Secret Service take me to Moscow, and he goes to Moscow on January 1st or whatever. He's just like, "Fuck it, I'm here," and Vladimir Putin like takes him in. There's like no way to stop that because he's still technically president, and we have a fucking stupid rule that we need to fix January 21st that you can't arrest the president. You need to get rid of that rule. Like, hey, George Washington, well done. Whoever. No, actually, that came in way after that. That came in the 70s. But that rule in the Justice Department shit, or that interpretation, we need to write an amendment immediately that if it is found legit, I don't know, I understand having a high standard. It's the goddamn president. We don't want to just be some political shit. But this motherfucker should have been in jail. Like, the only reason why he's in office right now is because of that standard that they couldn't treat him like a regular dude and question him.
Right.
And
they couldn't force him to answer questions in front of
he's the head of the goddamn everything.
Right.
Which also I think that should be changed.
They should change that. Yeah, well, the issue is you're trying not to
Justice Department.
The issue, well, that should change. But obviously the issue is you got somebody who you're assigned to run the country. So you don't want to log them up with like, I get that part I do understand, right? Like you don't want to have them just have to be sitting in front of Congress for 4 years answering questions. That part's silly. But there's a medium point between there. And there's also a thing where like, if you got so much shit going on where you got to spend 4 years sitting in front of Congress, we have a bigger issue at hand, right? Like,
so this is just off the top of my head. There should be some kind of court thing where the Supreme Court, maybe like 3 justices chosen at random or something of the Supreme Court, tries stuff with where it involves the president or the head of the Justice Department, like a special, because this is not something that's going to come up. It's not like every president's going to have to deal with this shit.
You would hope.
Yeah, I highly doubt. I mean, it was 40 years between Nixon and Trump. No, 40, almost 50 years between Nixon and 40. So if we get one of those every now and then, it'd be nice. There's a strong chance I'm alive in 40 years, and I don't want to be around the next time that happens and be like, I said in 2020 we should have made a tribunal or something. I knew this shit was gonna happen again.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yo, motherfucker. Like, I was telling you, motherfuckers. Listen to me.
To try and enforce, it's a weird thing. He's talked about sending sheriffs and law enforcement to polling places, which I have concerns about. And in the midst of that, there's all types of other crazy shit. Facebook got rid of a whole bunch of QAnon accounts, which is... QAnon's a weird thing, man. It's so
weird, man.
They're still putting weird shit out there every day, which is crazy. I don't know.
The craziest thing about it is the shit was started as a joke by liberals.
Yeah.
And also, liberals, stop trolling these people. They're stupid.
They take shit seriously.
You're creating problems, man. Like, I wish that, I mean, it's a funny fucking bit, but now this shit's like actually turned into some crazy shit, man.
It's so wild, man. Yeah, they've gotten rid of a bunch of accounts on there. They have gotten rid of a bunch of links that will take you to places on there. They're, of course, going to be accused of, quieting certain voices that are talking about bullshit. But it's bullshit. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
This is why I get tired of when people are like, we got to listen to them. We got to reach out to them. Because when these motherfuckers believe, like, I don't know how deep you go into the fucking QAnon mythology, but like this shit goes all the way back. They believe like it goes all the way back to like some Kennedy shit.
Yeah.
Like,
of course.
There's some JFK and JFK Jr. is alive and he's part of it.
He and Tupac are on an island.
Yeah, like this shit is some insanity, like beyond insanity.
It's just there's a level of just chaos, anarchy style shit that's in there. That's just intended to create issue. But the problem is, again, I talk about this every time I talk about QAnon. It's like when you get a large, like this, so many people in this country believe there's some being in the sky that's going to give them eternal life after they die or whatever. So like people are easily swayed.
You say that all the time, but people could say that. People could say that about the alien shit.
What do you mean about the alien shit?
That they could say, well, it's weird that you believe that there's aliens and shit like that.
I mean, the Pentagon confirmed it, so we're a little bit beyond. There's more proof of aliens than there is of Jesus at this point. So,
yeah, I'm
just saying, like, if you're gonna take a leap, like my thought about aliens before the Pentagon confirmed anything is like, I think that there's just too big that there couldn't be, but that's different than saying there absolutely is, right? Like saying that I think there probably is or there could be is different than there absolutely is. And so like people that believe absolutely that there's a God, it doesn't surprise me that they would absolutely believe in some other ridiculous, crazy theories as well. I'm just saying it's a baseline for absurdity.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. Okay. That's just, man, it's just at some point when you have to have that much suspension of like what all the shit that you thought you knew and believed to be true, when you have to change all that shit that much, maybe question it a little bit. Maybe think that it's not, everything that you thought it was.
People will straight up tell you that like that we have reptilian overlords, that they're shape-shifting people. Man. And it's like, and you're gonna go to work on Tuesday, dog? That's what you're gonna do? You're just gonna get up. You're not trying to start a revolution. You're just gonna get up and go. You're just gonna get up and go remodel bathrooms on Tuesday. But we have shape-shifting reptiles who are running the planet. You're just gonna make sure you remodel that bathroom on Monday. Like there's not more dire shit at hands, right? The president takes off his skin and is a lizard man, and you gotta go pick up a check.
I don't even get. Here's the deal. If they're shape-shifting, let's just say they're shape-shifting reptiles, right?
Right.
Let's just say they were, right?
Right.
They are so cold-blooded that they can transform themselves
literally
to look just. Boom! Nice one. They are so cold-blooded, Bobby.
Literally.
That they can shapeshift and become us. Why the fuck would they hide?
Right.
Like, there's no reason for them to hide. They could come on TV and just be like, I'm a lizard motherfucker, blah. I could be anybody. You'll never know who I am.
Yeah.
I am your ruler. Try to stop me and I will murder all of you motherfuckers one by one. As somebody you love. Looking like somebody you love when I do it.
This is a problem of we just be slaves, right? This is a problem. This is a problem of economic inequality.
We working for the lizard people now.
We're trying to send for help out to the galaxies, but that's a problem of inequality. Is that the more unequal we get in wealth and class, the more that like some of us spend all of our time on $28 million yachts, and some of us have never seen the water. The more we start to create stories about who those people are, because it's the only way that we can get through our day of being comfortable with the fact that we're never going to have a $28 million yacht, right? Oh, they got to be lizard people, because how the fuck else? You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that they're that much that, like, the only way this could be fair is if they were actually not even human. It's got to be the only way it would make sense to me. That's where people go.
The funny thing is, like, the people at the high end say stuff like, oh, well, you should make smarter decisions or you have to make better decisions. And they don't understand, hey, man, that's just the whole point. Being rich gives you the ability to, quote unquote, make decisions. When you broke, you don't really have choices. Like, that's the rent that I can afford. Yes. That's it. Like, so this is the area of town that I have to live in because this is the area of town that has the rent that I can afford.
Right.
And this, I don't have I don't have a Tesla because I don't have Tesla money. I could, blah, blah, blah. And so like, well, they would save so much money if they drove electric. Motherfucker, the electric cars are expensive. Like, they just don't.
The ceiling on decisions is different the more money you have, right? Like how many decisions you have the opportunity to make changes in a world that's run by money if you have more of it. Like if the world were run by, cookies, and Oreo would have the beeline on how everything works, right? But like that's that's how it goes down. So but you're limited in your decision making by your capital. And if you have all the capital, then of course it's easy to make great decisions. You can even make shitty decisions and it doesn't cost you.
Like life is not that dissimilar to a video game. If you're on some kind of a venture game or anything like that where you have to spend money or some kind of coins or some shit, the more shit you have, the more ability your character has to do shit. The less you have, you're limited.
Yeah.
Speaking of being, there you go.
Speaking of being limited, Uber and Lyft nearly limited their service. They have been in a fight with California now. California passed a ruling saying they had to list their drivers as employees. That's been an issue for them, obviously, because they don't want to do that.
Well, they don't want to do it because once they become employees, they can unionize and they can get protections and stuff like that. And it's bullshit because they set up mad rules. There was Illinois had a similar case where the company, it wasn't with Lyft, but it doesn't matter. The gig economy companies, they set up all these parameters for people in specific ways that they have to do things that they are employees in everything but name. Right. Like you did a 1099 instead of a W-4.
Oh, yeah.
W-2, yeah. And so, but you're still doing all the employee type shit. And you can't do that to people because if you are truly an independent person, which is a 1099, then you have the ability to go work anywhere you want to, do things the way you want to, make the sales or whatever task it is that you're supposed to do. You should have the ability to do it however you want to do it, as long as it gets done, to whatever quota or whatever you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that is not what Lyft or the other one, Uber, do.
Uber.
There's a lot of rules that they require their drivers to adhere to, and times and service rules and things like that make them basically employees.
Yeah, they got an emergency extension basically because as they were going to have to suspend service at midnight on Thursday, they hadn't gotten this extension. So they got one to try and recalibrate their business model essentially so that they can save it. Now, Uber would keep Uber Eats going in California, but most of my feed yesterday from friends in California were discussing the amount of DUIs they're probably going to rack up now with no Uber and Lyft in California.
You and I lived in LA at similar times. You remember this, man. Before Uber came out, I had a small company that I hired people, and I remember we had to do a background check, and I remember a guy asking me, "Hey, man, I got a DUI. Is that going to ruin me with the background check?" And I said, "Man, if it did, I wouldn't have employees." And we had over 100 employees at one point, I believe, in that office, and there were quite a few DUIs because cabs in LA are insanely expensive.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to do that. And most of LA is built on being out in the drinking culture. Like being out in that world is a large part of it.
It's not like for those of you in Chicago, listeners, you've never been to LA, they don't have neighborhood bars as frequently as they do in Chicago. So you have to go to an area that has a strip or something like that where clubs and stuff are. And that is usually not where you live. And it's usually you got to get on one of the fucking freeways to get to it. And so DUIs were super common.
Yeah.
And in fact, the reason I started doing comedy is because the fucking karaoke, I'm not a karaoke guy. I can't sing for shit, but it was in walking distance. It was like 2.5 blocks, which in LA is a really, really long walk.
Yeah. It's almost drivable.
It was 100% drivable. I used to drive all the time. Like my apartment was literally 2.5 blocks from this place.
Oh shit.
All the time. People used to literally look at me like, "Are you okay? Why you need some space? Why are you walking?" It's like, "I'm walking because it's 2.5 blocks."
Yeah, there's a lot of places out there that don't even have sidewalks. They're just like, nobody's using that shit.
I'll make this quick. To talk about how expensive cabs in LA used to be, I screamed at a cab. I forget how humongous I am and how much bigger I am than other people. And I took a cab home from the airport. I lived relatively close to the airport. What I thought should have been about a $30 cab ride, and it was almost $60 when we got to my place. And I thought the guy was trying to rip me off, and I just started screaming at him because I was like, "I live in LA. I know how close I am to the airport. and I'm screaming at him, and my roommate came out, and he's like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And I tell him, and he's like, "That's why I wanted to come pick you up. Cabs in LA are super expensive. That's the right price." Well, the cab driver had driven off, and I called his place to apologize and told him to come back. I wanted to give him a tip for being mean, and that guy never came back. And my buddy was like, "Yeah, he probably thinks you're gonna rob him."
Right. Yeah.
You were screaming at him.
You're a 6'7" black man yelling at a cab driver, and you're asking him to come back so you can give him a tip. No, I wouldn't come back. I wouldn't come back either. I'm black, and I still wouldn't come back. I'm like, yeah, I know how this goes.
I was so embarrassed. I literally thought this guy was trying to rip me off, and no, the cabs in there are insanely expensive.
Yeah. Speaking of LA, theaters are starting to reopen. They've announced their reopening plans. When are you going back to the movies? I know we were big Stubbs fans. We would go, a couple times a week to catch some stuff. Are you?
Only way I would go, is if we check in online. If I saw that they how sometimes every now and then there's just nobody at a showing of something.
Yeah.
If I saw that, if maybe there was one other person in the whole theater, maybe I'd go. But that's such a the theater that's near my place was a dump before this. There's no chance I think that place is going to be COVID operational. They couldn't get popcorn operational on the day Captain Marvel opened up.
I just couldn't imagine having to explain to family that I now have decreased lung capacity forever because I decided to go watch Tenet.
Yeah, it's not worth it. I mean,
what a dumb, who needs to be in a theater that a lot of this shit? I'm just like, who needs to fucking be there so badly? What the fuck is going on?
None of these theaters have redone their ventilation systems or upgraded them with some kind of HEPA, nothing.
No, they're not.
There's nothing happening. They just want to open.
They just wipe some shit down. I'm not going back.
So yeah.
Have you seen where you add butter at those places where the butter and the butter and the salt station? Have you seen those fucking places? What do you got? You gotta go over there and fucking press that butter button where it just spews everywhere? No fucking way, man. All the self-serve, remember all the self-serve soda spots? That was the hot shit at one point. Now it's like, no,
you can't touch anything.
I'm not doing any of that shit. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not. Listen. All right. I could spend money on movies for the next year, or I could buy myself a 100-inch TV and never go to the movie theater.
Pew pew pew. There it is. I was just about to say that I got a newer TV recently, and it's big on top of my fucking fireplace. And I'm enjoying watching movies on that shit. Got great sound and everything.
Yeah, we ain't doing that shit. When it does come to home streaming, there's been some changes. Are you keeping up with all the craziness going on at Comedy Central?
No, I saw it in the notes, and I did not get a chance. I saw it. You said they're leaning towards. Is this animated thing a permanent thing, or is this just during the pandemic? It's easier to do animated shit.
Yeah, they've made a whole bunch of changes over there. I think they had a new president come in. They made a deal with HBO Max, so there's a bunch of shows that are going over there. Southside's going over there, which is shout out to the homies that all work on Southside, from Will Miles to Dave Hellum. There's a bunch of cats on there. Chicago cats love shout outs.
Mary Lee.
Mary Lee was working on that.
Calvin Evans.
Yep, Calvin Evans was on there too. But yeah, so that is moving over to HBO Max. They actually made a streaming deal to move all their episodes over there. So I think that's maybe a neat thing that's going on. But the other part of it is they've also cut Drunk History.
That's heartbreaking because I love that show.
I mean, they had gotten us an okay for a 7th season earlier. They had actually been approved to go into season 7, and they canceled it.
I wouldn't be surprised if that found a home. Maybe this one of those things where, sometimes a team cuts a player because he wants to go play for his home team or something, or a chance at a championship. Maybe they have a chance to get picked up someplace else, and Comedy Central cut him as okay, you're a free agent now.
I don't know.
I hope that's what it is.
Chris McCarthy is the new head of Comedy Central, trying to remake them. They're rebooting old MTV shows, which is bullshit. They cut Drunk History. They cut Tosh.0. That's also gone. they've, it's Ken Alterman was the old guy who was there, and that's who brought along Key and Peele and Inside Amy Schumer and Broad City, and all those have ended, but they're going to replace it with a bunch of animated content instead. So I don't know. McCarthy claims they're going to double down on animation in a big way, which is not for me.
So
and he got to start in MTV, so that's where I should read all that
Matt
shit.
and Trey asked for more shows.
Probably.
Comedy Central is kind of the house that Matt and Trey built.
Yeah, no shit, right? I just think it's a shame to see those live shows go, because Comedy Central was really about stand-up comedy at one point, and the idea that it's going to move over to this like an adult cartoon network is. It's not entertaining for me.
Not just stand-up comedy, sketch comedy. I mean, everything but
Key and Peele,
but improv had a
Chappelle
home there.
Show.
Everything but improv had a home. Everything
Good. DC's Fandom starts tomorrow. Obviously, there are no comic book conventions going on. DC's doing an all online one that is free that you can watch. They're doing an 8-hour block of programming that repeats 3 times in a 24-hour period. It will be your only chance to see some of the shit that's going on. I know you're more of a Marvel guy. Are you going to be checking out any of the DC Fandom?
I am going to check it out because I got HBO Max. And since I had that, I've had a chance to check out some of the DC shows that you've been hitting me to get to check out. So
you've been watching Doom Patrol, haven't you?
Yeah. So now I'm interested in shit. And so yeah, I'm gonna check out stuff. And I have been talked into giving Robert Pattinson a chance. And by the way, I saw in our notes, Affleck is back. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, so they're going to be finally filming the Flash movie with Ezra Miller, and Affleck has agreed to return. They're doing so the storyline they're probably going to tell is the Flashpoint story, and so they're probably going to work Affleck into a small scene in that as Batman. Of course, he had to do some rewrites of the scene he's going to be in before he agreed to do the movie because he's a fucking baby, and I'll still fight him in the streets.
Hey James,
fuck Ben Affleck all the way.
Hey James, can you Google the etymology of flashback? Is that from the comic book Flashing Back?
No.
Oh, is that where that comes from? No. Okay.
No. From the Flash? No.
Okay.
No. Flashpoint is the big series that they're probably going to involve him in, because that was the big Flash run where he changed a bunch of events in time, and so I would see that being the case. I think one of the main things that I would like to see DC address with all the cuts that they're doing, and all the issues that have gone in, is Ray Fisher brought up some of the race issues that went on with Joss Whedon and the Justice League filming. And he made a lot of claims, and DC has yet to say a whole lot about it. I'd like to see some type of process that comes out of that. One of the things I don't want to see is the Snyder Cut.
I'm always for more content. I am always for more. You've always like that. I always want to see more. I always want more.
My issue is just about if you can't get your shit into the theater. this thing got fired before it was over.
My only argument against that is that sometimes there are executives that make asshole decisions.
Sure.
That have nothing to do with art or which the better cut is. So,
we're gonna find out, I guess.
Yeah, because I can't think. Larry. I can't think of his last name, but he's a writer, black writer, but like he wrote the PJs and a bunch of other shows. He wrote the Bernie Mac show and got an Emmy, and like the first show that they recorded after he got an Emmy, he got fired after he just won an Emmy for best comedy.
Yeah.
First black writer to win an Emmy for writing because they wanted the show to do a different thing than he wanted to do. And the dude just won the fucking Emmy, and the show was like winning its time slot. Like everything was successful, but this particular executive producer didn't like him and didn't like what he was doing. He wanted a different type of a show. He wanted an old school black show.
Sure.
And Larry was doing something. My point is, just because it didn't get to the box office, sometimes that doesn't mean that it wasn't a quality piece.
The difference is that like this guy. Like for the Bernie Mac show, there's a whole season that was put out and out there. It's not like he did a second season and then they looked at what he did and were like, no, we're gonna fire you and put somebody else there. Like Zack Snyder had a whole second part of this movie that he had done, and they saw that and they were like, fuck that. Which, don't get me wrong, I understand what you're saying. Like, maybe you got a shitty guy in there, but also like, man, director's cuts should be the best version of the movie at the end. You know what I mean? Like, that should be the one that gets in the theater if it's really the best cut. But they replaced him.
The ones that get in the theater all the time.
Well, I understand that. I've not seen one that I like yet. That's my problem, is that I don't really see those that look better.
The one thing that I hate, and if they're not going to do this, then I don't want to be involved in it. If they're going to bring in other footage, then pay to get all the fucking special effects and shit in the places. Don't give me a thing where I'm seeing like the fucking running sequence numbers at the bottom and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the numbers are called on the slate. Like, I don't want to see those cuts. I want to see it fucking finish it over and digitally finish it over, so how it would look in the theater.
You got to convince somebody to put more money into that, though. They put a whole bunch of money into this thing for him. So
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much that would cost. I don't know how much. That's not a thing. But if you're gonna do it, if you're really gonna release it, give it a fucking fair shot.
Yeah.
Don't have me like looking at, and so that I can clearly see. Oh, this is the part that you thought was shitty, and you're giving it to me in the shittiest part.
Yeah.
The shittiest way I could see it.
On the Marvel side, we were talking about this before the show. I've never watched the show Triple Frontier. I guess I'm going to have to now, because J.C. Shandor, who is the guy who directed that or created that, is going to be directing Kraven the Hunter for Sony, which is pretty cool. And Olivia Wilde is actually going to be getting to do Spider-Woman, I think. So Sony's starting to up their game on their pieces of the MCU universe, which is pretty cool. Last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here, Masai Ujiri, the GM of the Toronto Raptors. After they won the title last year against Golden State, he was attempting to go celebrate with the team. He was pushed by a security guard a couple times. He complained about it. The security guard actually sued him. So he had to countersue the security guard to try and get like videotape released and all this stuff. They finally got a hold of it. They released it, and it is super clear that the security guard for sure, or the sheriff actually, it was a sheriff that pushed him twice.
Yeah.
Pushed him twice. Have you seen the video of it?
Yeah. It doesn't even make, like, the first time he's pulling out his credentials.
Right.
Like, you can clearly see he's pulling out his credentials and he's walking to the dude
in a suit,
like,
in a suit, dressed nicely.
So like, oh yeah, you can't. I didn't hear specifically what he said,
right?
But you can tell he's like, yeah, I'm such and such, and he gets pushed, and after he gets pushed, he has a look on his face like, the fuck did you just push me for? But I think he's like, we just won the championship, so like, let me show this motherfucker my credentials. He's, And so the only thing I can imagine is that dude, like, obviously he works for it was in Golden State, not Golden State. Where they were?
It was in Oakland. It was in Oakland.
Yeah, it was in, okay. Yeah, it was in Golden State. So so he is a Warriors fan and he's pissed, and so he's just being extra.
He's a racist sheriff. He's just a racist sheriff.
How stupid is that?
He sued the guy he pushed for duress.
Wow.
That's the only reason all this is coming to light right now, is because the GM of the Raptors, the one and only black general manager in all of basketball, by the way, had to countersue the sheriff who had sued him for duress, just so he could get this cam out to show that this guy was the aggressor the whole time. That's the only reason we even know about any of this. That's a black man in a suit. Now imagine how that guy treats, somebody dressed like us just in the street.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
But all lives matter, Bob.
Well, if as long as we get Joe elected, we can solve everything. Listen, we talked a lot about Jay-Z. We hope everybody enjoyed it. Where can they find you online, man?
At the fucking Jay-Z Wikipedia page, making
edits to be editing
Comedy.
Today.
Like, motherfucker. You can find me at XL Comedy at IG, Twitter, and on Facebook at XL Comedy. One word. Holla.
You can find me at Mocha_Jesus on Instagram and Twitter. You can find the podcast at New OGs Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Find us on YouTube where we actually put up these videos. You can watch them after the fact. You can also find our midweek minis on there. We put all types of news stories up on our other places of social media. Go to People of Comedy, at People of Comedy, and at People of Comedy Network, depending on whether you're on Twitter or on Instagram, that's respectively. Make sure you find their GoFundMe on Facebook. Throw them a couple bucks. They have all types of perks if you go on there and you throw them a few dollars. Everything from getting a shout out on the show to even learning some basic production stuff from the guy who produced our podcast. Yeah, what's that list?
We have shout outs right now.
We have shout outs right now. Let's get some shout outs.
Chris Condren.
Let's close out with some shout outs. Chris Condren. Shout out to Chris Condren, comedian from Chicago. Great musical comedian.
Chris Condren is actually the reason this GoFundMe exists. He convinced me to do it. So
and we are shouting out Chris Condren for sure.
Also, Eric Emerson, another comedian in Chicago.
Eric Emerson. Shout out to Eric Emerson.
Dante Powell, fantastic.
Hey, Dante Powell's amazing.
And
shout out Dante Powell.
Old Davey Rader boy.
I love David Rader, fellow Sox fan. David Rader. Shout out to David Rader, our fellow Sox fan.
Love shout out.
Hey, find them, give them a couple bucks, man. Let's make the studio continue to be the best thing that's in Chicago. Thank you guys for joining us. That's it. That's what's up. We out of here.
Bitches wanna fuck, but nigga, you can't blame us. You can't. Bitch, you better play your role. I feel like Nelly when he dropped that country grammar, fuck the room.